All right, I
You
would have
just
had to
do
hit
all
the
the work.
live
I'm
button.
going
I
to
didn't
sit
even
here
put
and
my damn
talk.
headphones on yet. Good morning. Or, wait, no. We
Whoops.
missed that, didn't we? Guys, I'm sorry.
Whoops.
I'm sorry. I was working too late last night, and I, I ain't even going to lie. What I did when I went to bed is I said, you know what? I'm not setting an alarm. If I wake up, I wake up, and if I don't, fuck them if they can't take a joke.
That was an early F-bomb.
It was, and I don't have the sounder ready. Oh, wait.
We're
There
not
we
screen
go.
sharing, so if you do something cute,
And
I
we've
can't
already
see it.
broken the seal. Tonight's gonna be an R-rated episode. I'm just not even gonna pretend like I care about ratings or getting cut off or banned or. Damn it! Everything was moving smooth until 2 seconds ago, and now all of a sudden my video's spotty. Cameron, just run your mouth for a minute. I'm gonna do something.
Run my mouth from, well, it's Firearms Friday. Sorry we missed it this morning. One of us was awake, but I guess we can forgive Chris because he is working some third shift hours, actually getting paid to work those third shift hours. So I suppose we can be charitable in the name of capitalism. Also, we've got Rod in the comments. Rod, man, we were actually talking about you earlier today. Um, we miss you being in the chat, buddy. It's been kind of interesting the last couple of mornings. It would have been nice to have you around. Um, we had some let's see, we had some racist trolls. We had some pro Biden trolls. We had people say things in the comment that I actually don't want to that I don't want to repeat, even though I'm pretty much good with everything. Don't just do something, stand there. Oh, Rod, you are a clever individual when you choose to be, sir. Oh, and then we've got Dave. Nice. Sorry we let you down this morning, Dave. Apparently, Chris needs to pay his bills. Oh dear.
Are you at least getting my audio? Because my video is definitely frozen.
Yeah, we've got the audio. And we've got Saint Michael. Oh, good. Oh, good. Glad you're here, buddy.
And yeah, I'm gonna fix this real quick. And that should fix everything.
Oh, that
Oh,
was that was strange.
my
Not sure
video
what
is still
happened.
spotty. Is still jittery, but whatever. Okay, so
You're gonna have to give me the screen share back. You hung up on me.
damn it.
Okay, but I swear we have a DRT. We're not just gonna sit here and act like total fools. We got
We have a
everybody's attention.
DRT and we have a couple of things to discuss. So let's start with the DRT. Wow, brother, I ain't even gonna lie, I haven't even read it yet, but here it is. Robbery victim shoots, kills suspect in Mesquite after being shot. I ain't gonna lie, mad respect. If I've been
Yeah, I
shot,
mean, do
I
we?
will return fire, and anybody who does the same, you have my absolute respect.
Yeah, do we even need to like read the rest of the story? You've taken a round, and you've still got enough to return fire and kill the bad guy. Like, should we have a separate category for like DRT squared, where like the gravitational pull of your balls is part of the story?
That
Because
sentence had too many
wow.
syllables. Apologize. But this man is an absolute entry into the badass creator of badassitude. You want to talk
Yes.
about just holding it down. Police are investigating a deadly shooting in which a suspect, an armed robber, was the one killed. Police said around 1:35 a.m. on a Tuesday, officers responded to a shooting call on the 2600 block of John West Road. This is in Mesquite, Texas. That's when they came across the injured person who had called police. He said he had been the victim of a robbery by three people he did not know. He was shot and shot back at one of the suspects, killing the suspect. The deceased suspect has been identified and police said next of kin were being notified. Two other suspects got away, and good lord, I hope they catch them. That's the whole story. Um, it's a short one, but damn son.
Yeah, how many of these stories come out of Texas? Like, at what point in time did the bad guys realize Texas probably is not, I repeat,
Yeah,
NOT, not
not the
the.
place.
I'm always going to think about Count Dankula when he made his trip to America, and he stopped by Texas so he could go visit with Alex Jones. He says at one point in time he wanted a pack of smokes, and he went into a gas station, and there were 6 people in the gas station, the guy behind the counter, and the 5 people in line. Every single person was open carrying. And one of his buddies said, "Well, how'd you feel? Didn't you feel nervous?" And he said, "No, I felt like I was in the safest place in Texas. If somebody walked in there looking for trouble, they were going to get it."
I, there was a Family Guy episode where they entered the witness protection program and went to hide out in Texas, and of course, it's oh god, what's his name? Anyway, the creator, he's making fun of conservatives.
Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, Seth MacFarlane. So MacFarlane, of course, he's poking fun at conservatives. What a bunch of dummy rubes! And to make fun of conservatives, he runs this. There's this little bit in there where Brian, the talking dog, walks into a liquor store and asks for a fifth of Jack, and so the guy pulls down a fifth of Jack and hands him a revolver. And Brian says, "Oh, is this some gimmick y'all are running? That's pretty cool marketing gimmick." And the liquor store, the salesman says, "Nope, state law." Yeah.
Okay.
Texas is not the place, boys. Texas is not the place.
Or Texas is the place, depending on whether or not you have the correct perspective.
Please believe I am seriously considering moving my whole game show to Tejas. So probably up Panhandle way where the weather's a little more. I lived in Texas for a while. Everything's naked and wants to murder you. You know, like the salads. I mean everything.
So, real quick, before we move into the juiciness that you have
I see.
for us.
St. Michael said, just caught a story from California, man getting arrested. Hey, St. Michael, do me a favor if you've got it. Would you drop the link in the chat there? We'll pull that story up in a minute and talk about it a little bit because that sounds tasty.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like anti-roof Koreans, which is sad, really. Is it okay if the roof Koreans are my spirit animal?
What is the opposite of roof Koreans? Is it ground Somalis?
Wow! No, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I'm not. But one of the things that I've seen St. Michael make.
Are they like the ground owls in Texas? You were meant to fly. Stop burrowing.
One of the things that I have seen St. Michael make a point about, and okay, let me back up. There are people that are actually calling for defunding of police departments. There are fewer police, whatever. We can talk about if that's a good idea, if it's a bad idea, but I'd like to just talk about this in terms of pure logic, pure unadulterated logic. If you want fewer cops, you need to buy a gun. You need to learn how to take care of yourself. It's just that simple. Take care of yourself, and then you need fewer cops. The meme that I've seen posted goes something to the effect of, if you want to know why I need a 30-round magazine, just watch the news footage of the last couple of days. And that answers all those questions. And why do you need a 30-round magazine? Shut up. Shut your face. That is such a bullshit scare tactic that the left likes to use. Oh, it's a 30-round magazine. Look, it don't take much training before you can throw 30 rounds out of a Beretta almost as fast as you can don't kid yourself. The size of the magazine is not the issue. The issue is the encroachment on our liberties. Chris and I are Second Amendment absolutists. When the Second Amendment was written, you could own a cannon. So, and please believe, you want to put down a riot? It don't take much grape shot. I'm just saying. And all jokes aside, there is a difference between peaceful protesters and rioters, yada, yada, yada. I know. We've got to throw in these caveats because we live in a day and age where people get their feelings hurt. They can't understand sarcasm and satire. But yeah, You want fewer police, you need to have everybody armed, and frankly, you need fewer laws on the books. Every law that's on the books is the potential to be another knee on a neck. Period. Less law, more guns, then you don't need the cops. Just that simple. Anyhow, just that don't want to hijack things too much. I know you had something you wanted to.
I
Actually,
do.
Rod's asking a question about potato cannons. I think they count. I've only ever seen one fired once. That's probably not the one you want either.
No, it's not. And hey, if push comes to shove, that trailer full of airsoft guns I've got can always be loaded with spherical 6mm cubic zirconia. And, brother,
Ow.
you will
Ow.
have preferred I shot you with bullets.
Ow. Yeah, the bullets will kill you.
Six
That'll
millimeter
just
six
hurt
millimeter
forever.
spherical cubic zirconia, 1,500
No.
rounds a minute at 850 feet per second. You
Oh
will
man, that's like
prefer, you will have preferred my 357 Magnum
oh man, that's like watching a dude get
all
kicked
day,
in the
every day.
balls. It just makes me hurt.
Yeah, the the word perforation comes to mind. So apparently, a California man arrested for assault after drawing AR-15 on advancing mob. And here's the difference between California and Texas. Texas is still America, whereas the People's Republic of California has arrested this man for drawing his weapon on an advancing mob. You will never see a headline that mentions me drawing my weapon on an advancing mob.
Nope, because that will be an incomplete headline. I'm never going to draw it unless I intend to empty it. Just period.
If there is
So,
an advancing mob toward which I feel a need to aim my AR-15, if I had one, I know how fast I can pull a trigger, I know how fast I can hit my target, and I know how fast I can change my magazines. You need at least 211 people to advance.
at least.
A Southern California man has been arrested and charged with assault after displaying a rifle and shouting at a group of protesters who were marching through a neighborhood in San Bernardino County. According to KABC, 39-year-old Jacob Bracken has been charged with 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon resulting from the incident which occurred on June 1st. That was Monday. Bracken resides in the nearby town of Rancho Cucamonga. Rancho Cucamonga, California, was at home in Upland, California, was at a home Monday when hundreds of demonstrators protesting the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis inundated the neighborhood. How can it be that it is not considered a reasonable mechanism of self-defense for this man to display a weapon in order to attempt to dissuade an aggressive mob? In a news release, the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office described the protesters as peaceful. Bullshit. There it is. There are no peaceful protesters in the George Floyd protests. Period.
Alex was a peaceful protester.
False.
Really? Shots fired this early?
Shots fired this early. Here's the thing. The protests have gone violent at such a wide scale that if you are showing up in support of one of these protests, you are participating in the protest. And the protest is a violent riot. Let me ask you a question. If you're sitting on the couch not smoking any crack when the police come and bust up a crack house and arrest everybody, are you not a suspect? Are you not a part of the crack crime, the crack cocaine crime that's ongoing?
I don't know.
You
I
cannot
get where you're.
participate. You cannot participate in these protests without supporting the violence. It is not ideologically possible.
Okay, so I'd have two things that I'd push back on you on. One's philosophical and one is anecdotal. The anecdotal one is even in a teeny tiny little Polk County where I live at, we've had protests and they have been peaceful. And our sheriff, Johnny Motes, has said if they ever become anything other than peaceful, he's prepared to deputize half the county on the spot in order to make them return to being peaceful.
That's awesome.
And
I'd love to have him on the show.
so there's there's that, okay? And then there's the philosophical thing of some version of No True Scotsman. Not everybody that shows up to these protests wants them to be violent. I'd say, and I'm just going to pull a number out of my ass, but I don't think it's unfair. But I'd say at a minimum of 50-50, people want these to be peaceful protests. And by the way, Danny's here. So we've got the entire Polytech crew. That's flattering. Hi, guys. Nice to have you.
Alex,
we love you. I thought that was St. Michael.
No. St. Michael doesn't use Facebook, so he can't be Alex.
Okay, fair enough. Well, then I'm not real sure who you are, St. Michael.
By the way, Danny, I still love Alex. I think he and I may differ a little on this particular question. And we're gonna get into a couple of things. So, okay, first things first. All the protesting and riots they're primarily led by this BLM group. And here's part of why I say you cannot join the protest without supporting the violence. The protests, even the most peaceful of protesters in this protest, are protesting on the basic assertion that there is systematic racism in America, that police brutality disproportionately affects black men, that a large number of black men are killed by police without provocation, and that the police just get away with things. All of these statements are lies. They're provable, bald-faced, erosive, dangerous lies.
Okay, I'm with you on that. They're dangerous lies.
For example, there have been more unarmed black people killed by protesters in these riots than in 2019 by police.
Oh, I don't know. That retired police captain was armed. I'm sorry. God, that one sticks in my craw. Like something awful. Anyhow, keep going. Don't let me derail you from your point. I was being sarcastic in order to bolster your point.
I appreciate that. I was slightly distracted because my daddy's watching. Hey, Dad! You're a little late to the show, old man. You missed our We decided to go with an R-rated show this evening because of the subject matter. So, at the root of it, to support any of the protesters is to support the violence. Period. Now, there is another narrative that is also false, which is aggravating me enormously. I keep hearing George Floyd was an innocent man who didn't deserve to die. False. George Floyd was not an innocent man. George Floyd was a repeat offender, hard felony criminal. And let's just assume for a moment that it was a legitimate $20 bill and that the suspicion was unfounded. I have heard that claim made. I have not seen any evidence to back that claim. I haven't seen it reported anywhere, which surprises me. If that were the case, I suspect
It'd be all over CNN.
right. Just like if the body cams from the four officers told the narrative compliant story that he didn't resist and this was just a murder, then we'd be seeing those everywhere. We're not, so my suspicion is there's more to the story there. Now, the rest of that sentence, he did not deserve to die. That may be fair. It may be fair to say that he did not deserve to die in police custody. Now,
but it's such an emotional hand grenade. You can't have a reasonable discussion as soon as somebody drops that on you.
Right.
Well, duh.
I will also say that if a man beats a pregnant woman severely with his pistol whips a pregnant woman in her home,
and then sticks
who, by
the
the
gun
way,
in her gut,
was black.
Sticks the gun on the fetus.
Black woman whose fetus he threatened with his firearm while his accomplices ransacked her home. Maybe he deserved to die. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that these officers should have been the ones to make him die. The law should have. He should have been, frankly, my opinion, he should have been put to death by the law for that crime 5 years ago.
Oh, you mean threatening a baby?
With a firearm. After bludgeoning the mother with the weapon.
Danny's asking a question in the comments.
You sent me that, Danny, and I looked at it. I don't see, I'm not sure what's going on with the baggie there, but it's besides the point. I don't want to get spun off on that. Because here's the rest of it. We keep hearing innocent man killed by police. That's false. He is not an innocent man. And then the statement is he didn't deserve to die. Okay, I'll give you that one as a maybe for now so that we can get on to the rest of it. Because almost invariably they say he didn't deserve to die, and then they say nobody deserves to die at the hands of the police.
Oh, please tear this one up right here.
False.
Do that.
False. The idea that no one deserves to die at the hands of the police is an absolute metaphysical falsehood. It is this simple. If there is not a scenario under which death at the hands of the police, under which the use of lethal force by the appointed legal authority for the enforcement of our law is a justified outcome, if there are no circumstances under which the police are justified in using lethal force, which is what you're suggesting when you say nobody deserves to die at the hands of the police, then there is no law. Please believe, when the BLM gets their way and abolishes all the police force, I'm going to stop paying ad valorem taxes. I mean, why would I?
No,
why would I pay ad valorem tax if I'm not going to be hunted down by an armed man with a gun who is intent on murdering me on the spot if I don't fork over the money that's being extorted from me? If you switch off the knee breakers, the shop owners are going to stop paying the racketeering funds to the mob bosses. It works the same way with the police. If there is not a situation under which the police are justified in using a firearm to end the fight, then you have no law. Without law enforcement, there is no law, and without lethal force, there is no law enforcement. No, if no one deserves to die at the hands of the police, then we haven't got a law.
Look, and I think we can even take this all the way back to Socrates, who was unjustly persecuted by the law for corrupting the youth. And what did he do? He chose to drink the cup of hemlock because he believed that the law and the society that it represented was more important than himself or the imperfections that were inherent in the system. And to bring this into more modern
and to be
terms,
very clear, this is Socrates who, guys. Okay, I'm gonna have to chew on that one with you just a little bit, because the Crito is one of my favorite writings.
You could let me finish agreeing with you first.
Okay, agree with me a little harder, and then I'll really open it up. I'm going to
Okay.
take your idea, and it's going to blossom. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
No, but the point is, if we suddenly said, okay, nobody's ever allowed to die ever again in police custody, that's one of those things that sounds fantastic. Sure, hoorah! Nobody's ever allowed to die again in police custody. Let's do it. Except for the fact that if you're a criminal, all you have to do is get into a fight with a cop, and because you know they're not allowed to kill you as a result of that fight, you automatically win every fight.
Yeah,
Oh
nobody
yeah.
deserves to die in police
Whoops.
custody. What if you send 5 cops to arrest me and I kill the first 4?
Wow, that's a little darker than I was going to take it, but there you go.
I mean, how many cops do I need to kill in an arrest attempt before I deserve to die? Before it is reasonable for them to kill me? No lethal force, no law enforcement.
And in
Now,
this case with George Floyd, like he didn't, he, dude had meth in his system. I assure you, if you have meth in your system, you're an active methamphetamine user. Meth is not the kind of drug where you do it every now and again. You're either on it or you're not.
and it doesn't stay in your system. It doesn't.
Nope.
Meth. You don't pop hot for meth a week after the last time you had it.
Nope.
If it comes up on the drug screen, you've had it within the last, I think it's 48 hours is the one on meth. Um, I've I've had to deal with these a little bit as a military intelligence operator and I don't know, a life insurance adjuster. Anyway, these, comically, these are questions that have come up in my almost completely unrelated career paths. Um,
Just real quick, and then I swear you get to it. And Dave says something that I feel like needs to be read. He certainly didn't deserve a state funeral buried in a gold casket with politicians, celebrities, and media. Dave, man, I'm with you. I think that makes this situation worse. There is a world where you can think what happened to George Floyd was tragic and terrible. And that world also has got a huge section of its Venn diagram that overlaps with the fact that Floyd had agency, and Floyd used that agency to commit crime and do meth. And God, it's awful that those things intersected where they did, but it doesn't mean you get a gold casket as some kind of martyr that you clearly were not.
wouldn't it be funny if De Blasio attended that funeral after he said Jews can't have funerals because my Jews? De Blasio. God. Okay, so how bad is your world? How bad is the city you live in when your incompetent Democrat governor is threatening to unseat your incompetent Democrat mayor for his Democrat incompetence? Because, ladies and gentlemen, that is New York City today.
Oh, and
Okay,
you wonder
so the
why I don't live in
Crido.
a blue state.
So the Crido. Here's the thing about the Crido. When Socrates was tried for his crimes, the crimes he was tried for were being a bad influence on the youth. He was tried for blasphemy against the gods, and being generally a public nuisance. A few other charges, and everybody knew when Socrates showed up. Everybody knew that the penalty for these crimes was death, and that nobody wanted Socrates to actually be executed for the crimes. They just wanted to scare him off so he would leave. They wanted him out of Greece. Right? Not even Greece. They wanted him out of Athens. So they just wanted to scare him off. They did the big show pony trial, and the story is that Socrates, right before the trial, went and conferred with the Oracle at Delphi, who said that he was the wisest man in the world because he understood that he didn't know anything. The only thing I know is that I know nothing, and that's what made him the wisest man. And blah 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 blah. And then he confers with his daemon, which is kind of his. It's an idea of the conscience before we had Jiminy Cricket. The daemon was the voice in his head that told him, no, you shouldn't do this thing because it's not the right thing to do. And conferred with the daemon. He went to the trial. The trial was pretty well stacked against him, and it's a whole nother text that you should absolutely read. The trial of Socrates. Plato's account of the Socratic trial is some of the honestly, we should convert it into a film and just put it on the screen because it is priceless comedy. You kind of need to read a whole lot of previous context because Socrates gets up there and he just starts pointing out people and naming names. You know, you're a crook, you're an adulterer, your kid's a piece of shit, and just starts just pointing at people and just tearing them apart. So they sentence him to death. They lock him up, and he's locked up while he's waiting for the ship to arrive that's bringing in the hemlock that he's going to consume. Because basically the death sentence is you're sentenced to suicide. They're going to give him a cup of hemlock tea to drink, and he's going to drink the tea and die. Nobody wanted him to die, but he insisted on fighting the power, and so they kind of he forced them to go through with it. And then after he forced them to go through with passing the sentence and locking him up, all his buddies got together and they bought him a house out in the country way outside of Athens, bribed all the prison guards and the politicians, and they sent a representative. The representative was one of Socrates' students and longtime friends, Crito. Crito comes to Socrates, and Socrates explains a lot of very important political stuff, and deals especially with the importance of the rule of law. And that's when he explains that even though the intelligentsia of the city have gone out of their way to basically clear the path so Socrates can escape from prison and go live out his last couple of years. Because Socrates was old when Socrates was in his late 80s, early 90s when this went down. And we're talking about a giant of a man who was also old at a time when, well, medicine wasn't what it is today. So, he had a couple of years left, maybe, and he still chose, okay, we're going to do this. Because the law and the rule of law and order is more important than one man.
There you go. Man, I was just trying to make it as a quick throwaway reference. I wasn't expecting for you to give us a synopsis of the Crito, but thanks.
It's such an important text. It's hard to...
Well, I mean, it is important because... Okay, fine. I can honestly say with no malice that I wish George Floyd hadn't died. I wish George Floyd hadn't died even if there were no riots, there was no division in our country and everything else, because I am somebody that sincerely believes we've all got a sliver of that divine spark in us. And I have, in fact, read my Bible. And God, Moses was a murderer and Noah was a drunk and David had the affair, and yet they still did these amazing things. It's... And even if you want more modern examples, you look at, I'm going to invoke Martin Luther King. Yes, did all the amazing things that he did. It also looks like he might have plagiarized some of his stuff in college and cheated on his wife, like a lot. Does that take away from the good things that he did? No, not at all. And it's this weird thing. The only figure that I feel like we teach the truth about in our education system is Malcolm X. And I'm not real sure why that is. Everybody else is either lionized, you're perfect, Abe Lincoln was this amazing man. He also might have been a corrupt lawyer, but we don't ever learn about any of that. We only learn about Abe Lincoln was this amazing man. We learn about Gandhi was this amazing man. He also might have liked to sleep with teenagers that were not his wife. So we're not allowed to discuss these things in context. And it's... I'm not even touching that. Okay, Dave, you have thrown me. Thank you. That was amazing. You threw me. He's pointing out that Bathsheba was really hot.
And that's fair. All right.
It's fair.
I don't want to keep y'all all night, and I'm hoping... okay, Sergeant Major's still in there. One of my old battle buddies sent me a message on Facebook. I'm not going to say his name. He knows who he is. I know he'll listen to. He's not in the comment thread right now, so he'll probably listen to the show tomorrow. He sent me a message on Facebook, and I don't want to out him, but I told him I'm going to talk about this.
I'm really excited. I haven't heard this message yet.
The message
Guys, this
reads,
is new even for me.
The message reads, "From my command." And this breaks my heart. And I imagine once I read it, y'all, my dad lives next door to me, and he was a hard charging war fighter for a long damn time. He's one of them that if he tells you to climb his service stripes and kiss his ass, buddy, you better bring a bottle of water, because it's a long fucking way up. And so I imagine that when I read this PSA that was sent to my dear friend, my old battle buddy from Afghanistan, by his command unit, that I'm probably going to be able to hear the sergeant major scream, "Son of a bitch!" from across the street, from next door, through the garage door, and over these headphones. From my command, a PSA. Harassment and assault of service members has skyrocketed. If you live off post, minimize your uniformed appearance for safety. We recommend traveling to post in civvies and changing into uniform there if you have to wear one. I shit you not. This is a PSA sent out to a U.S. Army unit. I am curious to hear, guys, if y'all know anybody else in active duty or reserve service right now, if they're getting similar PSAs, I would love to hear about it. Because this level of cowardice from my uniformed brothers and sisters is appalling. Let me tell you, we've talked about this on the show before. It is my considered opinion, quite distinctly from the Second Amendment, that it should be the policy of the United States military that all service members at all times should be armed. If you are a United States military enlisted or officer, especially enlisted, because you know how useless fucking officers are. Oh.
I was hoping you were going to bring this up.
Sorry, Sean. I still love you, brother, but you was a LT. You was a little butter bar for a hot minute there. Remember when you wanted to know where the porcelain was? Remember that?
Man, no, tear it up. I was hoping you were going to bring this up. It's Firearms Friday. Why in the hell?
Dad says my baby brother has not received such a message, and that is reassuring. But it is my considered opinion that every uniformed service member should be armed at all times. Okay, why
do they not wear a sidearm?
I don't sleep with my rifle anymore, and I'll tell you the truth. For a long time after I came back from Afghanistan, in fact, every now and then it still happens, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll panic just a little bit when I wake up and I'm not snuggled up with Matilda. Every now and then I wake up and I'm like, baby. and my wife will roll over and kind of sleep and say, I'm right here, baby. And I'll say, no, you're not you, bitch.
I'm sure that's exactly what you say.
Yeah, that's exactly how that goes. She loves that. She loves that joke.
No, seriously, Firearms Friday. Let's just drill into it a little bit.
And no, they don't even wear a sidearm most of the time.
Why not? Why not? Cops wear pistols. Why can soldiers not wear pistols?
I don't know. There is not a good reason. You cannot provide for me a reasonable, rational justification for the disarmament of our service members.
What's the official reason?
I was never given a rationale. We weren't allowed to wear a firearm.
Okay, just
except when
out
we're
of cur-
deployed.
okay, just out of curiosity, let's say you are a concealed carry permit holder, like you and I are. Can you carry your personal weapon
There are some
concealed?
variations from state to state, and you have to jump through a couple of hoops to get approved to wear your weapon on base. Um, and if I'm being quite frank, there's a bit of a mystery about that. I've seen the paperwork. Dad and I and the wife have done the paperwork. We can wear our weapons on base. Um, oh, hey, and here's Dad talking about this is '01. We're talking about after 9/11. In 2001, the service members were told to travel out of uniform. I remember this. I remember this vividly. The sergeant major of the Army told me and all the sergeant majors in the D.C. area to go into the public in uniform to show strength. So let me read that back to you again. In 2001, the service members were told to travel out of uniform, but the the sergeant major of the Army. Now that's the big dick on campus, guys. Um, the SMA told me and all the sergeant majors in the D.C. area to go into the public in uniform to show strength. The the following May, I went on a speaking tour of the East Coast with Dad. This was when he was still active duty, and he was running the recruiters up and down the East Coast and all over. God, he was in charge of all of them. Um, and he says the Department of Defense has made personal weapon carry a base commander option. And quite frankly, if you're a base commander that does not go out of your way to ensure that your soldiers personally carry, you're doing it wrong. You're absolutely doing it wrong. But we're not surprised because you're an officer, and that means you're bullshit. Um,
Yeah, somebody that's never been in the military, that's always baffled me. Like, what? I mean, duh. Like, did knights not carry swords and wear armor? Did like
yeah, I mean,
what's the
okay,
point?
so active duty soldiers. We have linguists, we have medics, we have mechanics, we have cooks, we have carpenters, electricians, every job under the sun. You can be a whatever in uniform, and let me say this about that. That's your day job. But your first job as a uniformed service member, especially in the Army or the Marine Corps, is to kill bad guys and blow their shit up. That's
Hurt
the
people
thing
and
we
break
do.
things.
We
Yeah.
hurt people and break things. Now, we hurt certain people, and back to that thing about how nobody deserves to die. I'm going to put the lie to that right now. Afghanistan. Sanjare. There's a hilltop, and there's what used to be a little mosque. And that little mosque got overrun by Al Qaeda and was being used as a weapons depot and basic security outpost by Al Qaeda. 101st went in there when I was there. Just for the sake of NDAs, we'll say I was with the 101st. And we cleared them out. We eliminated the Al Qaeda occupants from that building, and we turned it into Pir Muhammad School. We brought in local elders to teach, and we insisted that boys and girls be allowed to attend the school. Well, Al Qaeda and the Taliban didn't like that we had the kids mixed together, boys and girls learning together, little girls being taught how to read. Sorry about that. My phone looks like it's going off a couple times. So we would send out an armed patrol every morning and walk the kids to school, and then we would send out an armed patrol every afternoon and walk the kids home.
And just so that we're clear, we're talking about kids. We're talking about kids the age that you and I have them. Prime of life,
Yes, four,
beautiful
five,
in every
six, seven,
way,
8, 9. Yeah,
nothing but
basically,
unlimited potential.
yeah, 12 down to speaking.
Okay.
We had some 4 and 5 year old kids in this group walking to school.
I feel like I don't want you to tell the rest of the story, but please continue.
Some of the locals decided that they didn't like the guns being around the kids, and we tried to explain to them, look, this is for your own protection. I, I know that um, I know that sometimes when you hear this is for your own protection, it sounds like I'm with the government and I'm here to help. But an armed security detail for your children in an active war zone that includes Islamic terrorists, guys, that is helping. But against my recommendations and in compliance with the protestations of the people on the ground, I don't know where the order came down from. I don't know how high up the order came down from, but I know it was not the base commander. I know it was not the company commander, the captain that was in charge of the outpost that I was at the time, because I knew
Oh
him well.
God, is this going where I think it's
But
going?
but we were told to cease and desist and to stop running the armed escort for the children.
How many babies got it?
Most of them survived. Once we recovered them from the kidnappers, the majority of them were still alive. They had had their fingers, their ears, and their noses cut off. We found these men. And I don't think I need to tell you the rest of that story, but I ask you this. Look me in the eye anytime you like and tell me that nobody deserves to die. I goddamn dare you.
Okay, I'm going to put my emotion aside, and I'm still going to give you the pushback that I feel like is due. George Floyd, for all his crimes, and he
May
did
not
commit
have deserved
multiple
to die.
felonies.
That's fair.
Yeah, but he might have even threatened to hurt a baby in utero, but he never actually hurt a baby. And I think it's fair to say that there are just some things that are worse than others. I realize God says all sins are the same size in his eyes, but we're men, we're mortal, we are imperfect, and man, you hurt kids. No,
And in my
I'm
moral
sorry.
imperfection, I'm happy to say that God is wrong.
You're just going to cross all the boundaries today, aren't you,
And
buddy?
in my arguably unconscionable hubris, I'd be happy to argue the point with him.
Fair enough. But George Floyd, I think it's more reasonable and logical to say that he was a drug addict that had a lifetime of problems. And then we had this whole coronavirus pandemic bullshit come along where, I mean, apparently the guy was working as a bouncer at nightclubs. Well, if you close all the nightclubs for like 2 or 3 months straight, what's a guy like George Floyd gonna do?
He's going to print $20 bills on his Epson workhorse, run through the dryer with some quarters.
Which is the wrong call,
Yeah.
but, and good lord, man, we were gonna only do 15 minutes, and now we're coming up on an hour. Woohoo! Anyhow, um, I do think there's a little room for sympathy here, and I think that sympathy is what's being exploited. And I'll even go back to the protesters versus the rioters. I understand, philosophically the point that you're making, that because these riots are associated with deep untruths, associating yourself with these protests also associate yourself with the riots and so forth and so on. I get all that. But at the same time, I look at a guy like Alex, who's our friend over at Polytech. If you guys don't follow him on Facebook, totally do that. They do a great show. But I look at a guy like Alex, and there's no way I can see myself as saying that Alex is a guy that is okay with the riots, the looting, the killing of cops, and all of these other things that have happened. There is an unfortunate gray area here, and I would say that that gray area is what is being deliberately manipulated to put our entire country on a razor's edge.
Okay. What you just said, and my dad's got a comment here. The riots have nothing to do with the death of one person. I'm going to bring those two pieces together. I don't think that Alex supports the rioters. However, and what Dad says here, the riots have nothing to do with the death of one person. If it is the case that there are peaceful protesters who are not in tacit support of the violent rioters, I have to ask you this question. Which message are the protesters sending, and which explicitly distinct and different message are the rioters intent on sending? Now, it is fair to argue that. You will be wrong if you make the argument, but it is fair to attempt to argue that the rioters are not trying to send a message, they are simply opportunists. That's false, but there is a fair argument to be made there, one that is easily defeated by the facts on the ground. But that's the problem. Whether or not you believe that your involvement with one of the peaceful protests necessarily means support for the riot, here's the thing that you have to remember. The point to being part of a protest, part of an organized movement, is to send a unified message. So no voice can be a part of a unified message that does not add to the optics for the public of what that message is. So if you are involved in the protests, you are tacitly supporting the riots. They are the same message. There is no distinction between them. That's the problem. That's why there are no peaceful protesters. Because you hear about all the peaceful Muslims, right? Well, it's a tiny minority of Muslims that are radical jihadi terrorists, right? Let's see. I hadn't planned on this line of argument, so I didn't pull up anything for it. But let me see if I can find the map.
So, okay, while you're looking, let me just ask you a really simple question. If you had to draw a line between the two, where would you say that line is?
I wouldn't draw a line. If the protesters and the rioters attempted to draw a line between them, I might argue for one side or the other of the efficacy of that line. My argument is there is not a line that has been drawn. I'm not going to give them each their own arguments if they're not going to make their own arguments. They're making the same argument. The argument they're making is the fallacious argument that police brutality disproportionately affects black men. That's a false statement. That there is widespread police injustice is a verifiably, provably false statement. That police brutality occurs is true, but it occurs so rarely. I mean, if this was a thing that happened every day, the George Floyd case would not be anomalous enough to cause outrage. It would be a thing which occurred in due course. These are the percentage of Muslims in Muslim countries, or in large density Muslim areas. Here's the percentage of Muslims who say they support making Sharia law the official law in their country. How are those people not in support of the active violence of the Al-Qaeda groups, the ISIS groups, and all those? If it were the case, they'd be speaking out against it. Now, you want to show me a distinction between the protesters, the peaceful protesters, and the rioters? Okay, if you want me to make their argument for them, I would want to see the protesters denounce the riots until they end, and then take up the mantle that they initially wanted to protest. Because, for one, let's remember, more black men have been killed in these riots to date than by police last year. Okay, let me clarify. Than unarmed black men. It's not a hard bar to beat, because, it's a genocide against black men, and unarmed black men are just murdered every day. Last year, 9 unarmed black men were killed by police. Of those, half of them were actively assaulting the police, 2 with a vehicle. And frankly, I'm benumbed that the guy that drove a car and hit a cop and then got shot by the cop's partner while he was still trying to drive the car at the partner, that he's listed as unarmed.
Time out. I don't want to make sure I hear you clearly. I'm pretty sure that my car is a weapon if I choose it to be a weapon.
In fact, there's a whole category of homicide called vehicular manslaughter. Yes.
Okay, buddy. All right. We're at an hour.
But if we count things that aren't guns or knives as weapons when people assault people with deadly weapons, then the number of unarmed black men that were killed by police officers last year drops to almost 0. But what do I know? I don't get paid to lie.
You don't work for CNN.
Nope.
Wow. Okay. Man, I want to keep going. I do. But we're at an hour, and it is what it is.
I'm sitting here drinking scotch, so I'm getting dangerous.
Oh, no. Now Chris is drinking? Stop. Oh.
I see Clontarf 1014 Irish whiskey single malt. My baby brother brought me back that from Ireland on his way home from Afghanistan.
Yeah, and if you've never met
it's been sitting on my desk for a while.
And if you've never met Chris's brother, like, I gotta tell you something about Chris's brother. If he ever hands you a drink, you drink it. It's good.
Yeah, and
don't.
We in Clan McLaren, we take our scotches seriously.
But look, we're at an hour. I still feel like I'd like to push back on you on some things, but
bring it on.
Now, look, buddy,
don't be a bitch.
Okay, all right. Because I'm not a bitch, I'm going to choose to let that insult land where it lands. And that's fine.
All right. I think we had a pretty good show tonight. I'm sorry we missed you this morning, but Daddy was sleepy. Yo, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching, Dad. Thanks for watching the show tonight. We love you. We appreciate seeing you, and it is Friday, so that does mean you need a safety brief. Don't drive drunk. Don't fry bacon naked. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, farm animals, and videotape. No two at the same time. Thank you, Captain Willie D. Jumper. Officers are useless, and wear a gun. Wear a gun. Wear a damn gun.
Wear a gun. I mean, seriously, wear a damn gun. This is not hard.